And so then you say it was in that discussion between those two contestants that you heard Trump say the N-word.
So basically, we're there, the producers, and Carolyn Kepscher and George Ross, who are the two advisors who work for Trump at the Trump Organization. And they're allowed a little bit more leeway because they work for Trump. So they get to say things that we can't say necessarily directly. And at one point, Carolyn Kepscher, who was the head of his hospitality unit and ran one of his golf clubs, sort of came outside herself and said, Kwame Jackson oversaw Omarosa, who was brought back onto the task and created all kinds of problems for herself and other people all along the season, but was great TV and was kept around for whatever reason. And for that, Carolyn Kepscher thought, well, Kwame deserves to be considered for how graceful he was in handling this. And we all sort of agreed. But it was tilting things in a direction that we didn't necessarily need it to go because we wanted to share an equitable story. And Trump seemed to have an issue with this idea all along. You could see him reacting and shaking his head, wobbling his head, grimacing, wincing, before he said, yeah, but would America buy then he said the N-word, winning. And I remember I was looking right at Carolyn when this was spoken, and she is a very pretty blonde woman whose skin went bright scarlet. And then I looked at Trump to see the reaction that he was giving, like it was some sort of joke, and he was still wincing and bobbing his head, and he was serious. And
wow,
it was then and there that I.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the fake outrage from the mainstream liberal media, the Democrat Party, and the Democrat activists who are panicking because Trump is gaining significant support among black people. It seems as if the election was held today, then Trump would get about 20% of his support from black people, which would be a landslide loss for Joe Biden. Okay, Joe Biden is guaranteed to lose if Trump gets 20% of the black vote. The liberal media knows this, the Democrat Party knows this, and they're in full-blown panic mode over this. So now, as an act of desperation, they are resurrecting these old claims that Trump said the N-word during one of his seasons of The Apprentice, okay, in which allegedly, according to Bill Pruitt, who is an ex-producer, now coming out because allegedly, according to him, an NDA expired. So now all of a sudden, as Biden is losing black votes, he can come out the woodwork and talk about this so that, hey, the media has an excuse to push this story that basically is claiming that Trump is a racist because he didn't want a black person to win the Apprentice show, okay? I mean, allegedly, when trying to decide who should win, the producers or his staff was telling him that, hey, you know, maybe you should pick the black guy, okay? And Trump was like, I don't know about picking the black guy. I'm not sure how America would handle that, okay? But instead of saying black person, he said the N-word, allegedly. Now, here's the thing. I am extremely skeptical of these claims for multiple reasons. Well, the primary reason is that this tape that is alleged to exist has not surfaced yet. And in a time in which this allegation came to light, 2016, that was the start of the time that the mainstream liberal media, the Democrats, the powers that be were doing everything that they could in their power to dig up dirt on Trump. Okay, this is when the Hollywood Access tapes came out. This is when, you know, you start to have the stuff about the Steele dossier, the Russia collusion hoax, the Trump PP tapes, okay, in which allegedly he got pissed on by Russian prostitutes. Now, a lot of that stuff turned out to not actually exist, to not actually be true, because they were creations, fabrications of the Clinton campaign, who at the time was actively paying to make up fake stories about Trump in Hillary Clinton's attempt to affect the outcome of the 2016 election. I personally believe, now again, this is just my theory, that this is an extension of that Clinton operation, okay? I think all of these claims, I think all of these people in some shape or form are probably being compensated by the Clinton campaign or were compensated by Democrats or Clinton at some point as a part of the smear job against Trump. Now, again, do I have any evidence to back up that claim? No, but we do know that a lot of these claims are fabrications from the Clinton campaign. So I have zero reason to believe that this is not a part of that or an extension of that, especially considering how these tapes have not surfaced. If this was true, Best believe, considering everything that they've thrown at Trump since he declared that he was running for president back in 2015, these tapes would have surfaced. Because these tapes have not surfaced, I have no reason to believe it. In fact, the tapes not surfacing, despite, again, the efforts to take down Trump, they've thrown everything at the guy. They're actually trying to throw him in jail. Okay, literally everything. That honestly leads me to believe that there's a 99.999% chance that they're not real. Now, in the event that they are real and that they do surface in 2024, unfortunately, it is impossible to say that they're actually real for certain because of AI. Right? With the invention of AI, and the fact that you can basically make anybody say anything now, and it is entirely believable because, again, of AI technology, if all of a sudden these tapes come out, it's impossible for me to say that they're actually real. Don't know, can't say for certain. And it's possible because allegedly MGM owns these tapes and they're under legal contract so that they can't release the tape. So again, this is why they say, well, they're out there and they haven't been released yet. But again, I personally think that if they actually were real, okay, best believe somebody would have leaked something, right? Something would have been leaked. Somebody got access to it. Some operative would have definitely leaked it. I don't care about the legality or the legal contract, the legal structure that's keeping them from releasing the tapes. Somebody would have released them. And if you could say for certain that they are real, guess what? Me personally, I don't give a damn. I'm still going to vote for the man. I don't care if he says the N-word or not, right? Because there's no doubt in my mind that Joe Biden, behind closed doors, has said the N-word a lot, okay? I have absolutely zero doubt, okay? So again, it goes back to what I said before in prior videos. Even if Trump was a racist, which I do not believe that he's a racist, but even if he was a racist, I'm still going to vote for the guy because I would much rather have the racist who had great policies for America than to have the guy who pretends not to be racist, but you know that he is a racist, who the left says is responsible for putting policies on the books that they say are racist, systemically racist against black people, and also on top of that, his economy is terrible. He's tearing the country apart. Yeah, give me the racist over the guy that pretends not to be racist, okay? I'm just saying. So to me personally, it doesn't matter whether the tapes come out. It doesn't matter whether the tapes exist. But I don't think they exist, right? Just like the Russian PP tapes don't exist, because if something like that actually existed, it would have surfaced by now. There's no doubt in my mind. But because they haven't surfaced, I don't have any reason to believe they exist. And that's what frustrates me about this fake outrage from the mainstream liberal media, because instead of doing some journalism and being skeptical over these claims that, again, seem to not have any real evidence behind them outside of witness testimony that, again, we don't know if it's true or not. We have no clue whether or not it's true. Nobody's heard the tapes. But the mainstream liberal media, they're going to talk about this. They're going to bring these individuals on their show and refuse to question them and to ask them the questions that should be asked when you have such a damning claim against somebody, but you don't have proof and evidence to back up the claim, but yet they treat the claim as if it is true. Now, again, if something like this, if a claim like this was made against Hillary or Joe Biden or a Democrat, do you think that the mainstream liberal media would just be treating the claim as if it's true, right? No, they wouldn't be doing that. They would be asking questions. They would be skeptical. But again, that's not what we're seeing here from the media when it comes to these interviews, like this one right here we're about to cover, between Kwame Jackson, who apparently was the target of the N-word. That's who Trump was talking about. And Abby Phillip, okay, of CNN, who again is going to interview this guy, but is going to refuse to ask him what I believe to be obvious questions about these accusations of the N-word and, you know, why we should be skeptical of these types of claims. Because this is the same guy that doing an interview in 2016 on Fox Business said that, well, when I was on The Apprentice, Trump wasn't a racist. Okay, just like, hey, we know back then Trump was hanging out with a ton of black folks and stuff like that. And now all of a sudden today he said, well, Trump has always been uncomfortable around black people, despite the fact that this guy, all of a sudden in 2016, again, as Clinton was digging up dirt on Trump, I believe paying people to be anti-Trump, he came out and then said, oh, well, Trump's a racist now. But when he was doing The Apprentice, though, I didn't think that he was a racist then. He was a whole different person then.
This, a former Apprentice contestant denouncing Donald Trump. Roll that tape.
I remember a different Mr. Trump over 10 years ago when I first went on the season 1 of Apprentice. I almost say that it's been a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde transformation. If Mr. Trump in his current manifestation as a politician came about 10 years ago, I would not have gone on season 1 of The Apprentice.
All right, you saw him right there. His name is Kwame Jackson, and he's with me right now in New York City, right next to me on the set. Kwame, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Stuart.
Do you now think that Donald Trump is a racist?
I've always thought that since his comments came out, so it's not...
What comment in particular makes you say that guy's a racist?
I wouldn't even say what comment in particular. I would say there's a preponderance of comments, whether it's what he said about Mexicans being rapists, whether he said about the Black Lives Matter music, Black Lives Matter movement, what he said...
What did he say about Black Lives Matter?
He talked about Black Lives Matter movement being, something that should be ostracized, that we should not be paying attention to it, that Bernie Sanders should not have let them take the mic.
Well, why is he racist just because he says this particular extremist group should be ostracized and put over there?
I actually don't think...
Is that racist?
No, I don't think Black Lives Matter is a racist group. I think
is it racist for Donald Trump to say, ignore them, put them on one side? I don't think so.
No. I'm not saying just that one comment. You're asking for kind of a preponderance of comments. I'm giving you a series of events. I say Donald Trump has said many racist things that, I think really are out there in the media already.
I don't think of the man as a racist.
Yes.
I don't. Am I a racist if I say, I really don't like 11 million illegal immigrants living in this country, and I want to send them back?
I don't think you're a racist. I think you're a xenophobe.
Yeah, so I want you guys to understand. The same pattern shows up every time when it comes to these black people that have a history of working with Trump. Before 2016, he wasn't a racist. Trump loved black folks, okay? Before then, Trump was great. He was amazing. But then all of a sudden, when he ran for president, he became a racist, okay? He's the most racist person in the world. He's evil. Again, it's just funny how that works. So again, this is why I'm very skeptical of this individual. And I think it's a damn shame that Abby Phillip did not ask real questions to this person or about these allegations in general. But again, this is why interviews like this is why people don't take the mainstream liberal media seriously. So without further ado, let's get into it.
There have been rumors about this story for years, but now we have Pruitt coming forward and saying that he actually heard Trump use that word. Have you heard about this before? And what's your reaction to now knowing you were allegedly the subject of that comment?
Well, first, I want to say thank you for having me on your show, as always, Abby. And I wanted to celebrate tonight. I'm in a mood of jubilation. I have on my 34 sweetness jersey for the 34 convictions for Donald Trump. I do think it's a moment of jubilee for the African-American community and people who have been long trumpeting the ills of Donald Trump. And even in the spirit of Walter Payton, who was called sweetness, this is a sweet day. This is a sweet victory. And he had a saying that he said, never die easy. And I think that's what we've done in terms of fighting this fight, bringing it to the courts, and making sure there was a conviction. The next step is to make sure there's a just sentencing.
So again, this is a Democrat activist, right? This is a Democrat activist. Now, again, this is why I say that I personally believe that this is just an extension of the Clinton campaign, right? This is an extension of the Clinton campaign trying to dig up dirt on Trump. And again, I don't know. I don't know if this is true, but I'm just saying, I personally think that there is a likelihood that some of these individuals have been paid off in some way. Again, I don't have any evidence to back it up. But again, in 2024, you don't need evidence to back up any of these claims. Hence why the media is covering the story. You could just say it, right? So I'm just going to say that I personally believe that because a lot of these people that are making these claims are Democrat activists. They're salty people that used to work for Trump or that were involved with Trump in some way. And now they are Trump deranged and they're anti-Trump. Yeah, I think that clearly there's some financial payoff. Clearly there's an incentive to come out here and to make these types of claims against Trump. Because again, this type of stuff was being funded by the Clinton campaign, by Democrats. And again, you can see this person is a Democrat activist. I don't think that is a coincidence.
I want to celebrate those 34 convictions first. In regards to what he said about the N-word, one, let's be clear, he did not say it to my face because it would have gone down much differently. So I cannot verify that he said that. I don't know if the tape exists. I do believe Bill Pruitt. He is a friend.
Okay, so again, you don't know if he actually said it. You can't verify if the tapes exist. So what's the issue? I don't get it. So you're already admitting that I don't know if he said it, and I don't know if the tapes exist. That should be the end of the story. That should be the end of the story. Because again, the evidence, the proof that he said it is supposed to exist, but it hasn't surfaced. It hasn't been released. It hasn't been leaked. So if you don't have proof that he said it, then why are people covering this? Why is this story now a thing? Well, again, it's because Trump is winning support among black people. So they have to revive this dead story to try to smear Trump as a racist, even though they're telling you, well, we don't really know if it actually exists. And the guy that, again, is supposed to be the subject of the N-word, he can't even tell you for certain that it was said. But yet he's upset, right? I'm outraged. But this guy is a Democrat Party activist. Again, it's just so hilarious.
And I'm happy that he finally came forward. I cannot give him a red badge of courage or profiling courage like John F. Kennedy for doing that 20 years later. But we are where we are. And because of that, we are in a situation where we're not asking the right question. It's not whether he called me the N-word. The question we should be asking is, because he did call me the N-word, what kind of permission structure has been created downstream to make racism flourish in America?
Okay, so again, listen. This is what I'm talking about. This is how you know this is a hit job, right? This is fake, okay? The guy just said, I don't know if he called me the N-word. I don't know if the tapes exist. So if you don't know if he called you the N-word, you don't know if the tapes exist, how can you then say just 30 seconds later that, well, because we know he called me the N-word? No, you don't know. You just said you don't know, right? But again, what he's trying to do is tie it into, oh, well, Trump's a racist. And because Trump said the N-word over 20 years ago on The Apprentice, and I'm salty that I lost, this is proof and evidence that Trump is giving racist people in this country permission to be openly racist, right? Again, this is all about what's happening with the black vote. 100%. 100%. 100%. This is a Democrat smear job. 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind.
So all the ills that we think about that have come from that allegation, now America feels a permission structure to be more racist, to roll back DE&I efforts at my alma mater, the University of North Carolina, our joint alma mater, Harvard, where Claudine Gay was fired over racist allegations as well. And so I think it's about the permission structure and the climate and the storm that's been created around racism, not whether Trump called me the N-word or not. That's very kind of like fifth grade energy, you know, your mama jokes.
Sure, I guess I wonder.
Well, I mean, Claudine Gay was not fired over racist allegations. Again, Abby Phillip, that's what really bothers me about the media. She just heard this man contradict himself, saying, well, I don't know if he called me the N-word. I don't know if the tapes exist. But yet he just said, because we know he called me the N-word. Again, she's not going to actually question him about that. Okay, well, if you don't know he called you the N-word, why did you just say because you know he called you the N-word? Like, that's a heavy allegation to say that you know. You actually don't know because you don't know if the tapes exist, and you just said that you don't know if he actually called you the N-word. But again, because the mainstream liberal media is an arm of the Democrat Party, that's not her job. Her job is to let this man talk and to never push back against him. Because, listen, guys, can you imagine, right? If the mainstream liberal media had let Tony Bobolinsky come on their network and to talk about the Hunter Biden laptop story and the allegations against Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, the same way they're letting these clowns come on their network and to just openly talk about these N-word allegations against Trump, could you imagine how that might have affected the election? Can you guys imagine that? But this is what I'm talking about in regards to how messed up the media is. When it came to the Hunter Biden laptop story, they did not treat that with the same amount of seriousness. In fact, they smeared it as a Russian hoax, right? It's just Russia. They did not treat that with the same amount of seriousness and credibility as they're treating this story about Trump saying the N-word that has absolutely zero credibility. Zero, none. There's no proof or evidence outside of witness testimony that can't be corroborated by anything except, well, I heard it, right? And a lot of people that are coming out here and saying they heard it, it's secondhand. Well, I heard somebody else say that they heard it, right? Or I heard they exist. Or I heard the tape, but I don't know. Like, no, the tape, as far as we know, today is not out there. We don't really even know. But think about it. What are the implications of Trump saying the N-word 20 years ago, allegedly saying the N-word? What are the implications of that versus the implications of Joe Biden being bought and sold by foreign entities? Which one do you think is a more serious story that you should actually really cover and to allow the witnesses that were allegedly involved to come forward and to tell their story? Trump saying the N-word or Joe Biden allegedly being involved in business deals where they're influence peddling with foreign entities? Again, this is how screwed up the media is. They treat the N-word story more seriously. They allow the witnesses, even though you have people this guy's not a real witness because he didn't witness it, right? But they allow these people to go ahead and tell their story, right? Oh, treat it as if it's a serious story. But the Hunter Biden laptop story wasn't a serious story. That was a hoax from Russia. In fact, look at this headline from CNN about Tony Bobulinski's testimony in Congress. Notice how a headline says unproven accusations. Unproven. Okay. They make sure they specify, hey, this is not proven. Despite the fact, again, we have a whole laptop, text messages, all types of circumstantial evidence to back up what Tony Bobulinski's saying. But CNN, unproven. Now, look at the headline that they have here for these N-word allegations. That, again, there's no evidence behind, except you have witness testimony saying that, well, I heard it. Tapes haven't been released, been years. Oh, well, there's no headline that says that these are unproven allegations, right? Again, this is why nobody takes the mainstream liberal media seriously. This is the type of double standard that I'm talking about. There's no reason to be covering this story. Zero, none. But yet they are bringing these people on their network to talk about this as if this matters. It doesn't matter.
Though, I mean, do you think that this is something that actually voters should listen to and hear and say, this is who Donald Trump is? And what do you want to say to people about what his use of that comment might represent about him as a person?
Yeah, and I do think that on the margin, going back to your previous segment, on the margin, this may make a difference.
Again, you know what would have been a more fair question? You know what would have been a more fair question? She asked that question as if it's proven that he actually said it, right? Assuming that he said it. What she should have said is that, well, since we don't have tapes or real evidence outside of witness testimony that he actually said it, do you think it's fair for voters to be judging the president based off something that we really can't prove is true? That would have been a real good question to ask, right? That would have been a fair and balanced question, but that's not the question that she's asking right now, right? She's asking a question that essentially assumes that he actually said it. Well, he said these things. How do you think that voters should feel about it? Wow. These people should be ashamed to call themselves journalists. This is not journalism. It's not journalism at all.
Tape did come out and there's an ability for people to hear it, like they heard, the unfortunate comments about grabbing by the PSSY. If they heard those types of things, maybe on the margin in the 7 key swing states where we know there's going to be very slim margin voting, in the suburbs of Philadelphia, in the suburbs of Milwaukee, in the suburbs of Wisconsin, of Phoenix, we know that that's where it's going to make a difference with voters who are still on the margin undecided. But beyond that, the base is the base, and they've been given a permission structure to be racist, to do things like Charlottesville, and to do things that really deny the truth and reconciliation that's often needed in America. So what's really needed at this point is for America to do the hard work.
Yeah. So again, you see that, you heard that. Again, this guy is a Democrat Party activist. He obviously wants Trump thrown in jail. He wants Trump to lose the election. But yet CNN is marching him on their network to basically admit that, well, I don't know if I heard Trump say the N-word, but to basically treat it as if Trump actually really said it, right? Even though none of these people actually know. They don't have any proof that he actually said it. Again, it's amazing to me which stories the mainstream liberal media chooses to cover and to treat seriously versus the other ones that they don't. Again, the Hunter Biden laptop story, we're not going to bring Tony Bobulinski on. We're not going to bring anybody on that could possibly corroborate that story and prove that Joe Biden is being bought and sold by foreign entities. We're not going to do that. Okay, we're going to smear it, okay, as Russian collusion, right? But yet you have this story, which in my opinion is an extension of the Clinton operation against Trump. Oh yeah, this is totally legit, even though this mythical tape hasn't surfaced yet, despite millions of dollars being spent, literally millions of dollars being spent to try to smear Trump in every way possible. Again, the fact that the media is not approaching this story with skepticism and asking real questions about why is it that this tape has not surfaced yet? Why is it that we don't have real evidence that this actually happened? Again, it's just astonishing. But again, it shows you just the difference between how they treat stories that negatively affect Biden versus stories that negatively affect Trump. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.